awaiting results from key battleground states this morning. North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin, all too close to call. Nevada announced they will not resume counting votes until tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, so we're waiting for another 24 hours there. Joining me right now is former acting White House Chief of Staff, former OMB Director, Mick Mulvaney. Mick, good to see you. What is your expectation in these swing states, and how do you? What's your takeaway?
Yeah, there's a lot of counting left to be done. You mentioned a couple states. Don't know if you mentioned Arizona in your list. I've been on the phone since about 3 o'clock with friends out there. Since 3 o'clock this morning, the president has closed about 30,000 votes. He was down 130,000 about 3 hours ago. He's down 100,000 now. The way they're counting votes out there, Maria, is quite interesting. It's first in, first out. And most of the Democrats voted by mail first, then Republicans voted by mail second, and then the walk-in vote, which is predominantly Republican as well. Everyone I talked to on the ground in Arizona said they still expecting the president to win that state, which would be a very big change to that electoral map. If the president were to win Arizona, he only needs Wisconsin then to tie or Michigan to win, and Pennsylvania becomes irrelevant. So I think it's going to be a very interesting couple of days. I don't understand why Nevada's not. That's news to me that Nevada decided to take the day off, which is bizarre. You know, the different states are different. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Jason Miller from the Trump campaign tweeted all of this out about Arizona, saying that they need 61% of the outstanding uncounted election day votes in Arizona to win. And they feel that there is further upside in Arizona, and yet the race was called.
The race was called, I think, by a couple. I haven't kept track. I think Fox News was the first one to call it very, very early yesterday with over 1 million votes that were uncounted. I recognize the fact that the network has defended that several times over. But again, it goes to the bigger point here. It doesn't make any difference who declares victory, who concedes defeat. The numbers are going to be what the numbers are going to be. And that's what the president was talking about last night, is he's not talking about disenfranchising anybody. He's just wanting to make sure that everything is done above board and there's no shenanigans. There's no people will remember back in the Al Franken, Norman Coleman race many years ago in Minnesota in the Senate, a very critical race where somehow they managed to keep finding boxes of ballots days after the election. We should make sure those types of things don't happen. Every vote counts. Every vote only counts once. They have to be properly cast. I think that's what the president was talking about last night in his speech.
Yeah, which is why it's dangerous to go on days and days after the election and say that you're still counting votes. I mean, couldn't these ballots be counted by election day like every other election?
Dangerous to take a day off in Nevada. What's happening to those votes while those folks are gone for the day? I just don't know, and I'm sure someone knows. It's a knowable thing, but it makes no sense as to why it's taken as long as it has. Listen, the COVID crisis is real. There's no doubt about that. It has impacted the way that we voted this year. But for some reason, Philadelphia, Michigan, Wisconsin, not able to handle it the way that other states were. Nevada, similarly so. So I'm not sure what's happening there. It's too late to do anything about it now, but I do think we should move as expeditiously as we can through this. It's just good for the health of the nation to have a winner here sooner rather than later.
All right, Mick, let me move on to stimulus, and we're waiting on the potential of another stimulus deal following the election results. What are the chances, in your view, we get a stimulus in this lame duck session before next year?
Probably pretty good. Again, I was in the camp that was surprised there was no stimulus deal before the election. It looks like the Republicans are going to keep the Senate so that regardless of what happens in the White House, you're going to have divided government come January. So I'm not sure that the calculation about stimulus changes much over where it was, say, 48 hours ago. If the Democrats had run the table, then we could sit here be talking about, you know, a several $trillion additional stimulus in January after the new Congress was sworn in. I don't think you're going to see that now. I think we go back to have these regular conversations, focusing on extensions of some of the Main Street lending, the PPP, and moving away or staying away at least from bailing out the states. I do not think you'll see a Republican Senate have anything to do with bailing out any states. It's simply too dangerous a precedent for them to set.
And Mick, what would the stimulus look like in the lame duck session? Are you talking about something much smaller than what we were discussing with Nancy Pelosi and Stephen Mnuchin? Like it's going to be below $1 trillion in this case if it were in the lame duck session?
Well, I think they were up. They were both up above a trillion. I think Stephen Mnuchin's last bid was 1.8 or something like that. Nancy was still dug in someplace between 2 trillion and 3 trillion. I can't remember. But again, the Republican control of the Senate would be determinative here. The Republicans made it very clear they were not willing to go above $1 trillion before the election. Find it hard to imagine that with the outcome last night, that would change much. So I think we're right back where we were 24, 48 hours ago, which is looking at a smaller deal that excludes the big ticket items. The big ticket items, again, would be bailing out pension funds and so forth in various states.
Yeah.
So you're back to a streamlined bill.
Right. Wall Street was betting on 700 billion, 800 billion, streamlined, real targeted. Mick, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much. We will keep watching that, of course, and it's good to catch up with you. Mick Mulvaney joining us